On this week's episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show, we pull out the crystal ball and look into the future. With less than 2 weeks to go to the start of MLR 2026, Maddie and I reveal our predictions for top 5 fantasy MLR players at each position. Plus, last call for those who want to play fantasy MLR this season. The Fantasy Ruckers Show starts right now.
Where rugby and the world of fantasy sports collide. Welcome to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, talking all things rugby from the MLR to leagues around the world. We're on top of it. Headphones on, pads off. This is the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Yee, Matt Yee, and Devin Vanderpool.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 183 of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Thank you so much to our Fantasy Ruckers League members, our community members, and everyone else tagging along on this journey of making fantasy rugby a reality in MLR with you each and every single week. Matt Yee, I am Ryan Yee, and Maddie, less than 2 weeks away, baby, and MLR 2026 is here. Can you believe it?
I cannot believe it. Wow. It feels like it's right around the corner. It feels like it snuck up on us. But in a couple of weeks, we're going to have some MLR rugby to watch. And in a few weeks, I guess, we're going to have some fantasy MLR rugby to play. So love that. Everything, all the fun's just around the corner and looking forward to for what's to come. But
yeah,
we got a lot of stuff to cover here in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to cover, like you mentioned. And on this episode, we get everyone ready now for Fantasy MLR. The studying begins. If it hasn't already, I expect all of our OG members and all the longtime Fantasy MLR players to have been doing the work for quite some time now. But if you are doing some last minute catch up, this is the episode for you, because it's the episode that me and Maddie long await for every single offseason, and that is revealing our top 5 fantasy MLR players at each position. I mentioned at the top, we pull out that crystal ball, we try to look into the future, and we try to see whether or not we can nail some of these. And this year, out of all years, Maddie, I feel like has been the toughest to try to nail and feel comfortable about the guys we're going to talk about on this episode.
I mean, every year I feel confident, Ryan. Every year I feel good. Every year I feel like I've nailed this one. I watched the film. I know what's happening. And I think this is the year, or last year was the year that I officially got humbled. So no matter how I feel going into it now, I know that at the end of the year, these top 5s are going to be completely wrong.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can start the trend. We can buck the trend of the Fantasy Ruckers curse. We can buck the trend of maybe getting some of these top 5s right. We'll see. It begins on this episode, Maddie. It begins.
The only reason why we have a chance, Ryan, is because our probabilities are higher. There are less players in the league, and we have a higher chance of guessing these right. So
right. And
good for us.
Instead of over 200 players to choose from, Maddie, we are at 100 and I believe around 77. So
That's great.
We do have a smaller pool.
It's great news for us. That's great news for our chances.
Yeah, no kidding. But what a time for sports. Obviously, over the weekend had an incredible Six Nations finale, which was fun to watch. Baseball is just around the corner. I'm gonna quickly take a swig of my Hofstra mug here. The Hofstra Pride have made the first appearance in over 25 years into March Madness. Got to give a shout out to my alma mater there. So that's exciting. But on top of all of that, we've got Major League Rugby coming up here. So again, hang tight. Put your seatbelts on. This episode's going to be a good one as we start to break down and really get into the nitty gritty of fantasy MLR, which is obviously our bread and butter. Maddie, couldn't be more excited here.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So we'll talk about our top 5s here in just a bit. Of course, a little bit of news to go over, and we do have a pretty important Supreme Commissioner Yee's update coming up. But before we get into any of that, if you aren't already, follow us at the Fantasy Ruckers. Handles up above if you're watching on YouTube, down below in the description if you're listening on the pod. We appreciate the support, and again, that's where you're going to get all your fantasy MLR content throughout this upcoming season. We have a great Discord community as well. We do have a growing number of people that have been joining that over the past couple of weeks. A lot of new members who are going to be dabbling in fantasy MLR for the first time this season. So make sure you go check that out. And a lot of talk, whether it was the Six Nations that happened over the weekend, or I'm sure all the chatter that's going to be happening as MLR 2026 kicks off. It's a great group of people to start meeting some like-minded, passionate rugby fans like yourself. And again, make sure to check out thefantasyruckers.com, the official platform for fantasy MLR here on the Fantasy Ruckers Show. All right, let's get right into the news.
News dump.
All right, time for our TFR show, episode 183 news dump. And Maddie, we start to feel like we're getting closer to the start of the season
Mm.
when there is less and less news, I feel like. Once we start dabbling down to maybe a few less roster announcements, we start getting to maybe the more fun news, whether it's jersey reveals, some preseason stuff. That's when we know that MLR 2026 is just around the corner. And despite obviously having, like I mentioned, maybe a fewer less signings to talk about, we do have a few fun things to mention here in this segment.
Yeah, I mean, I we gotta get like I don't know what else to say, right? Got the news and notes. That's all I got.
News and notes.
I
All
was
right,
trying
let's.
to you caught me at a bad time. I was trying to Google some upcoming news that I can announce if you
That's
didn't
okay.
have it.
It's okay.
So
I got you covered here, Maddie. I got you covered. We'll start off. Let's get the I guess roster transaction stuff out of the way here. A couple of notable MLR players, or I should say former MLR players that have been staples of this league for quite some time, are moving on to play rugby elsewhere, and that is three players to note. Specifically is going to be Foster DeWitt, Ethan Fryer of the New England Free Jacks, and then Noah Flesh of the Chicago Hounds. They will be all moving to Super Rugby Americas to play for Penarol this upcoming season. So that's three guys that will be moving on from MLR. As we mentioned last episode, that basically all the rosters are fully announced here, including Maddie's beloved California Legion, which I should say, Maddie, the people in the Discord have noticed your hatred towards the California Legion and have
hey,
started to question your motives here.
do you know what yeah, do you know what? Whatever. I don't know what to say. Like what to say. Uh, that's all I got to say. I've had
Well, we'll
enough.
get
I've
into it
spread
when we
enough
start
team
breaking down
hatred.
these
But
players.
I think what I was gonna say is that I think when we start breaking down the top fives, they're gonna realize that maybe I do have some respect for that team.
There you go. There
You
you
can
go.
still have
So
respect for last place, man.
I'm not even going to go there. Anyways, three players, again, longtime MLR guys that have found a home elsewhere with the six teams being filled here for this upcoming MLR 2026 season. Maddie, to more fun news, we do have another kit release, and Anthem Rugby Carolina has joined in on the fun. Maddie, not sure if you've seen these yet, but I gotta say, I'm a man of a nice looking collar, and Anthem
You
Rugby
do like the
Carolina
color.
goes with the color. And I love the color. It does give me some Toronto Arrows vibes with these
Mm,
jerseys.
it does look very
But
arrows.
either way, I'm loving it. I think these look fantastic. Go right up there. Obviously, we've only seen three jerseys so far, including these ones. When it comes to the Seattle Seawolves, who haven't really changed much, we talked about that last episode, and then the New England Free Jacks also not really changing that much, aside from their away kit that they announced earlier this year as well. But Anthem joining in on the fun. We wait for three other teams to announce their jerseys, but gotta say, love the Anthem jerseys. Honestly, think it's a step up from the jerseys we had last year.
Yeah, I mean, what was the last year one again? It was like the racing stripes type thing. It was like the checkered. Anyways, I do think that these are much more classy. These are much more yeah, they're much more classy. They're just classier, classic jerseys. I like it. I like it. I'm a fan of them. Nothing too good, nothing too bad. Just a solid decision on the jersey.
Yeah, yeah. Just keeping it traditional, which sometimes is a good thing. So, looking forward to seeing those on the pitch. And again, obviously, with a season that has a lot of high expectation for Anthem Rugby Carolina, it looks like they're going to be looking pretty good while doing that as well. Huge thing. Last thing, though, I want to touch on is the preseason stuff that we have been
Oh,
hearing from particularly the Seattle Seawolves, who have been pretty active when it comes to what they've been talking about. Obviously, they're overseas, having that preseason camp there in South Africa with the Stormers, and it's been cool to see a MLR team involved with a side that's obviously pretty notable there overseas.
yeah, it looks pretty cool. The training facilities look cool. What they're doing looks pretty cool. I think we'd love to see more of that. Um, and yeah, they're getting better. They're getting ready for a championship. So yeah, seems like they're off to a good start.
Yeah, they released a little video there of their first week in Cape Town. Looks like an awesome experience for some guys, obviously that we'll see here in MLR to have that experience overseas. And again, they're going to be taking on some of the Stormer stuff. They're 23 friendly against Seawolves, so that should be interesting to see, and obviously a great experience for those guys as well. I do want to mention one quick thing here, and it is has to do with the New England Free Jacks, and we always love to give a shout out to people who take that next step into the I guess, higher ranks of rugby across the world. And general manager, I should say, former general manager Tom Kinley is moving on, and he goes to Super Rugby. He's obviously the GM of, or I guess, former GM of the New England Free Jacks. He is now moving on to be in Wellington to be the GM of the Hurricanes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that. It's pretty sweet. Obviously, his resume speaks for itself in terms of his success in the MLR. So he's returning home. He probably deserves this gig as well. You know, just going to the Hurricanes, the Super Rugby side to be able to be part of their team building and their front office. That's great to see. So yeah, we'll see how this impacts New England Free Jacks and whether it already has impacted or what that means. So we'll see how it goes moving forward.
I mean, talk about a awesome jump, right? You go from MLR, obviously his home area, but from the MLR to Super Rugby, like that's the pathway we'd love to see. Obviously, one
Yep.
that doesn't happen often, but obviously when you're a three-time MLR champion, and have bolstered a roster and been the I guess the brain behind building the club for the past three championships, a promotion to Super Rugby to lead now the Hurricanes is obviously one that's well deserved.
Yep, for sure.
All right, let's get into now a Supreme Commissioner Yee's update. Maddie, unless you had anything else that you want to touch on?
Nope, you took my last news, so
All
I
right, here we
guess we're
go.
moving on. Try to delay this as much as possible.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye.
All right, hear ye, hear ye. Here is Supreme Commissioner Yee with a Fantasy Ruckers League update. Gotta say, it feels good saying that with the MLR season being just 2 weeks away, because this is something that is obviously going to be a little bit more beefy as we go on towards a season of more updates. Get to talk about weekly challenge winners, get to talk about all the good stuff as Fantasy MLR goes on. But aside from all that, this might be one of the most important calls to action here in my Supreme Commissioner Yee's update, because I am
Uh-oh,
making a final call.
a
Final
final.
call for everyone out there who wants to play fantasy MLR this season. I've been going through all of the registration submissions,
How many we
starting
at?
to organize the people into the leagues, returning members, new members, things like that, getting the listener league all formulated to get all the winners from last season into a league that's going to take on myself, Maddie, and Vandy, on top of our OG league as well. But hey, if you want to play fantasy MLR this season, now's your chance to do it. We'll keep that form open for the next couple of days. But then once that closes up shop, we got to finalize those leagues. And we're going to have drafts as soon as next week here coming up. So
Do
we
we
want as many people playing fantasy MLR. And now's your chance to do it. And make sure you do catch the opportunity to partake in that here in MLR 2026.
what's the count, Ryan? You gotta tell people to count.
We have how many people?
Yes.
We are above 40 people here.
Oof. See, that's a bandwagon that I would want to jump on. You know, that's a ship that I want to get on before it sets
Yeah.
sail. So yeah, I would want to join 40 people and have some good fun. So
Yeah. And I mean, that's on top of like talking about like our Discord has like blown up to over like 100 people in there since obviously when we first started this thing, and it's just really cool to have everyone in there. So yeah, again, join the many others that will be playing fantasy MLR this season. Super excited. We continue to grow each and every single year. Yeah, we do take strays and punches, and we get knocked down sometimes when the league deals with certain things like they have this off season. Probably best reflected through this past off season. But hey, that's not going to stop us. We said it from the beginning. Our goal and everything that we've done in the 5 years that we've been doing this, the fifth season that we're heading into this, Maddie. Our goal has always been to make fantasy rugby a reality in MLR. No matter what the league throws at us, we're going to continue to do just that. And that continues here in MLR 2026. So, again, final call. Make sure to sign up. Link to do that down below. And there's a little quick Google form that you'll fill out. You'll join the Discord, and then we will get you all set up. But it's been great to see all the brand new league members or brand new people that will be playing Fantasy MLR this season. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, hey, welcome in. You're gonna have a fun time and enjoy the ride here in this brand new world that we've opened up to you here. That is Fantasy MLR. So pretty good stuff. And again, a couple other tidbits. Listener League. If you won your season last year, you're going to have the opportunity to play in the Listener League to take myself, Maddie, and Vandy head on. We'll be reaching out to those people about their interest in joining that. And Maddie, I got a final announcement. We have the
Oh
official
man,
list of our OG League members this season. You want to hear it?
let's do it.
All right. Well, hey, obviously you're going to have the OG boys, and that is the Fantasy Ruckers team. So it's myself, Maddie, Vandy, the defending champs. But Maddie, we have added an Infinity Stone to our, what do you call it? What's that thing? What's the thing called? The Gauntlet? The Gauntlet. We've added an Infinity Stone to the Gauntlet, and that
The
is
Thanos fist.
Stephen Lowen is joining the Fantasy Ruckers team.
Let's go.
So
Well
we do
deserved.
have another thing. So it's an official Fantasy Ruckers team. He's our community moderator. You probably have heard him on our Discord channel. It's going to be myself, Maddie, Vandy, and Stephen Lowen taking on these other OG League members. Obviously, has been a longtime OG League member, but with us having to reduce to 6 teams because of the situation we find ourselves in the leagues, more than happy and with open arms welcome Stephen Lowen to the Fantasy Ruckers squad. I think a lot of people are going to be talking about him joining the dark side, maybe because we've always have heard that from our other OG League members. But hey, the OG League is all about highlighting the best content creators in the league that cover MLR, and it brings us all together to go head to head. And some of your favorite names are going to be a part of this league. Longtime members, Bill Baker of American Rugby Rising. Obviously, we did the pregame show at the last year's final with him. We did our coverage with him last season at the finals. It was a blast to collaborate with American Rugby Rising and Bill Baker. So he again will join the OG League as well. We got Matt McCarthy, Sack Lanning of Rugby Wrap Up, going to be again with us here, joining in on the fun. Again, they're probably going to be still hunting for that championship. I don't believe they've ever won it yet. They haven't had that name on the jersey of our highly coveted. I haven't even talked about the jersey in a long time. The highly coveted Fantasy
You
Ruckers
have not.
Championship jersey. And of course, we are the former champions that are coming back from that. We do, of course, have John Fitzpatrick, great friend of the show of Rugby Morning, joining us as well. And
Hmm.
then our 2 newest members.
Mm.
We talked about it. We had him on the show not too long ago. James Dealey of MLR Stats makes his return to Fantasy MLR, and he will be taking part in our OG League. Was an OG League member a while, had to take a step back with all that he does, but again, this year made the commitment that he's back and he's going to be coming hot with a vengeance to try to take over this OG League. And I think the name we've all been waiting for, Maddie, the one that we alluded to before, now that we can confirm, we talked to him not too long ago, but
Hmm.
former MLR player, Olympian, Sevens player, Canadian
Mm.
15s international, and of course, close friend and high school buddy of ours, Andrew Coe, is going to be dabbling in fantasy MLR for the first time. MLR champion with the Ironworkers and former RFCLA player is entering the world of fantasy MLR. Super exciting stuff. Five others, including us, the Fantasy Ruckers team, to again highlight the best of fantasy MLR, while also bringing these amazing content creators together to help continue grow this league.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's five other losers. You know what I mean? So,
And we
so
can
no,
say that.
it's
We can say that because we won and it
we
feels
did.
good. But starting
Well,
next week, the journey begins again for us to get back there.
technically, somebody from our team won. It wasn't us.
What do you mean?
Not Vandy won.
That was the listener league.
Oh,
This is
I'm
the
getting it
OG
all
league.
mixed up. I'm
All
getting it
mixed
all
up.
mixed up.
Too many leagues,
All
too many
right,
fantasy
too many
MLR, but you can't have
leagues.
enough
Too
of it.
many.
But either way, the
Can't have
fantasy
enough.
Ruckers, we got our name on that jersey, and now we're going to be looking to defend our titles. Isn't that right, Maddie?
That is right.
All right. Well, hey, looking forward to it. And that starts off with maybe dabbling and maybe getting your hands on some of these guys we're going to be talking about. It's what you've all been waiting for, the top five predictions for each position when it comes to fantasy MLR players. Maddie, are you ready to finally get into it?
Let's do it. It's time to
All right,
go.
let's do it.
Preseason warm up.
All right, our TFR episode 183 preseason warm up. Well, the Seattle Seawolves are out in South Africa. We're
Mm.
here and we are coming in strong, doing our preseason warm up for a season that is 2 weeks away, and that is going to be our top five rankings on this episode. Maddie, it's one that we always look forward to, like we mentioned, and we'll obviously go through the six positions that we have in this year, just to give everyone a heads up. Some structural changes, some positional changes with everything that we've seen in the league. Front row is back, second row is back row is back. Centers are back threes are back. But the interesting tidbit in this one, Maddie, no kicking points, and the halfback position has been created, combining both the scrum half and the fly half into one. And let me tell you, it was interesting to try to navigate the impact of what those rule changes are going to have and how the halfback top five is going to look like. So, going to go through each of these positions. These are guys you want to look out for and the guys that we think are going to finish at the top five of fantasy MLR point totals this upcoming season. Maddie, I just want to start off though with a quick tidbit in terms of how difficult to put into context, just how tough this year, especially
Mm.
creating these rankings were.
You
Okay.
tell me.
I know we talk about it every year that the MLR, when it comes to performances and the amount of roster moves and teams coming in, teams going out, the changes from year to year make it so volatile and make it so hard. On top of the fantasy Ruckers curse that
Mm.
is so evident, where if you don't know, the person that we predicted to finish as the number one fantasy MLR player each year has not only not lived up to that, has completely flopped. We hope to change that this year. Maddie, let me tell you, compared to last year's top five, so 25 total names that we had last year when it comes through all or I should say 30 names that we've had
Good
over
math.
the course of these positions. Yes, good math. Only 11 of them are
Wow.
returning this year. So less than
Wow.
or just over 33%. Let me just make sure I got that numbers of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, I should say, actually. 1, 2,
Wow.
3, 4,
So
5,
just over
6,
33%, 34%,
7, 8, 9,
35%.
10, 11, 12. Yeah. So less than half, that's for sure,
Yep.
are top five players returning. Obviously, names that we'll go through because we're going to mention last year's top five that were just so dominant in the world
Wait,
of
isn't
fantasy
that
MLR.
technically on your top five?
What?
Wouldn't you don't know who's on my top five? So what is
No,
my
no.
top
What I'm
five?
saying is last year's top five. Finishers top five.
Oh, I see. I
You see
see.
what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? See what I'm putting down?
Yep. Yep. Only 11, 12 of them.
Only 12 of them are still in the league. From whoever finished in top five last year, only 12 of them are still in the league.
Yep, that makes it tough.
That makes it tough. That makes it tough. So, with that being said, and setting up that framework, let's get right into it, Maddie. And let's start off with the front row position. And I do want to say, I do think that the front row position, at least for me, I think was the easiest to try to navigate. I think out of all six positions, I just think that the framework in which we are looking for, or I should say the profile we're looking for, that tends to, with the scoring format that we have, that tends to lend itself to good point production from this forward position. Again, it's all relative. Obviously, your front row is not going to be scoring as much as your centers or your back threes or your back rows, even. But relative to the position, I think we have a general profile that we are looking for, and that is someone that is involved in the set piece, i.e., your hookers, and guys that are going to be athletic and involved in maybe some fast play with that, and finding those profiles within these teams. So why don't I first give up last year's top five, okay, and then we'll get into ours, and we'll go from 5 to 1, Maddie. Okay, we'll reveal from
Sure.
fifth to first place. Okay, so this year, last year, our top five. At 5 was Hugh Roach, 4 was Cameron Orr, 3 was Dylan Fawcett, 2 was Liam Coltman, and 1 was Shiloh Klein. And if you did
All
the
of them out
math
of the
there
league.
correctly and looked at all of that, none of those 5 guys are still in the league. So a brand new top 5, guaranteed we are going to have this year.
Yep. I mean, even if you look at the top, basically 10, none of these front rowers are in the league anymore. So, yeah, it was an interesting one choosing this one for that's for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Maddie, why don't you reveal your fifth front rower?
All right. My fifth front rower is
Drum roll,
Sean
please.
McNulty
Oh,
from the Seattle
okay.
Seawolves. I just
Okay.
think, look, like I just think that he's gonna get a lot of playing time here. Like he's when you look at Dwell Coates, like he's Canadian, which is going to mean that he's using an international slot. I think Sean McNulty was great when he played for Miami Sharks. And yeah, I think he's going to get an opportunity here to start a lot of games, and I think he's going to end up reaping the rewards of being on a very good Seattle team.
A down season last year with only 27.9 fantasy points,
Yep,
in large part coming off the bench for Miami for
yep.
most of the games. However, we have seen glimpses of when McNulty has been at his true form, and that includes his days with the LA Giltinis, back when. And yeah, could definitely see that. He definitely has the pedigree to go up there. My number 5 there, Maddie, is going to be Seth Smith. Anthem Rugby Carolina, I think he's a guy. Obviously, we've had him on this show. Fantastic guy. Has been was so good with us to give us the insight into obviously everything that went down with the Houston SaberCats. But this is a guy that is on the up and up, a guy that is now finds himself from the Houston SaberCats to Anthem Rugby Carolina. We've seen what he's been able to do in brief stints. I mean, we go back to when he made his debut as the youngest MLR player. Was he the youngest to score a try? I want to say even I think at that
Possibly,
point
yeah.
possibly. But he's been fantastic. A little bit of a tail off on last year's 59.1 fantasy points. But for me, this front row is his to be. I know they brought in Ramiro Gurovic, but they want to emphasize homegrown talent. This is the next generation of a potential USA Eagle that is going to be there, and I think Seth Smith is going to be the locked-in starter for for Anthem Rugby Carolina there, and I think he's going to have a very very solid season.
Yep. I mean, surprised he's so low, but yeah, hard to argue with anything you said there.
Okay, number 4, Matt, what you got?
Four, I've got Ben Sugars from California Legion. Um, Look, he would be higher. He had a great year last year. He finishes off as what out of the remaining front rowers, he's basically front row two, out of the ones that are available. He had 64.6 fantasy points last year. Played a lot of games, started a lot of games. Also came off the bench for a few games. Look, he's solid. I just think that California Legion having Joe Telfetti back is just going to eat into Ben Sugar's opportunities. I think, especially again, I think eligibility is going to be very important this year, and it's something that we need to look at as fantasy managers. Yeah, I think Joe Fetty is going to kind of eat into what Ben Sugars can do, and eat away kind of at his potential. That's why I have him at 4.
Yeah. Yeah, no, great point. And again, I think that was one of the glaring points for me when it comes to Ben Sugars as well. So agree with you there. Okay, number 4 for me. This is where it gets interesting, Maddie, because you go with Sean McNulty. I go with Devault Kotza here at number 4.
Wow.
And I think that the shift from having to use an international slot there on Devault Kotza, I think they know that they have to utilize him as much as they can. They know the talent. We've seen him do it before. We go back to his Dallas Jackals days where he had what, a 4-try performance. It is there, right? And I think Devault Kotza is a guy that is familiar with the system. I want to say last year, as I pull up the stats here, from the Seattle Seawolves team, with Cameron Orr not longer being there, Juan Pablo Zeiss is no longer there, Karan Van Vuren, no longer there. For me, he's the lone guy there that is taken over, and it's his job to lose there. And I do think he's going to be the mainstay over Sean McNulty.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, number 3, Maddie. Let me know your number 3.
Number 3, I have got the one that kind of, when we talk about the unicorns of the front row, we talk about the non-hookers that somehow make their way into the hooker category because of how many points they score. Jake Turnbull, I have at number 3.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I just think that he's going to benefit a lot from moving to Chicago. I think he's going to have a lot of success in Chicago. I think when you look at that roster, you think that he's a guy that is going to start for that team. And just the things that he did with Anthem, the way that he would make tackles, the way he'd be on defense, the way he'd be in carry. Yeah, it was really just great to see. And one that I think that he can only get better from. Um, in the following years with a better team and some better results as well. But yeah, guy scores 62.8 fantasy points and ends up being the front row 3 as a prop. Yeah, it's pretty hard to pass up on that one.
Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to with the profile we're looking for. If that player is not going to have the try scoring opportunities like a hooker does off of those set piece plays, you want a guy like Jake Turnbull that gets heavily involved.
Yeah.
Yes, last year was a down season, but you go back to 2024 when he racked up 91.3 fantasy points and he had double digit tackles from rounds 1 through 12, and only round 3 being the game or the lone match where he was below that double digit figure. I mean, now being on Chicago, a better team, you could argue has even a higher try scoring probability now because
Yeah. And
Chicago
the way that
looked at
Chicago plays.
exactly that gritty kind of rumble type rugby. Definitely going to play into Turnbull's favor. So, no, I love the pick there. And alluding to it, I will say he was a guy that I had to snub off of my list. So, again,
Oh
one
no.
that when you play it out and you talk it out like this, that's when I'm like, oh crap, did I make a mistake? Starting to give me a little bit of
You
angst. All right,
did.
we talked about him before. You have him at 4, Maddie. I have him at 3. I got Ben Sugars at number 3. Don't really need to add much more on top of what you have already stated. But again, the caveat between my 1 and 2, and I maybe should. This is where I was flip flopping between Devault Kotza and Ben Sugars, but Ben Sugars has just shown some really, really good play that I find really confident in. And I am a little bit more confident in the fast pace that I expect with California Legion that would play into his favor, which put me at 3 over Devault Kotza. But yeah, Joe Taufete, having him in the mix there kind of mitigates the ceiling that I expect from Ben Sugars, which kept him out of the top 2 that I have. But again, I think Sugars is a guy that you can have a lot of confidence in drafting in your leagues.
Yep, I 100% agree.
All right, number 2, Maddie, what do you got?
Number 2, I got Theo Foree,
Okay.
uh, the new
Our
guy on the.
first our first brand new MLR guy, MLR
Yeah,
rookie, I
you know
guess you could say.
me, always got to make sure that I have a guy in there. But yeah, the new guy on the block, the guy who's essentially going to be taking over the butcher's hand in Chicago. So look, they used international slot on him. He has a lot of pedigree and international talent. He's got a great resume. He has that starting job, and it should be a solid pack. And the way that they play, like we just talked about, he should have lots of opportunities to score. So yeah, looking for a big season out of him. He's going to be my number 2.
Love the pick there. All right. And for me at number two, I got Connor Robinson at
Mm.
number two for me. So Connor Robinson, a guy obviously on Anthem Rugby Carolina, um, was the large in part due de facto starter with Anthem Rugby Carolina. And now, we see what he can possibly do here. Moving forward here as we see the potentials that he does have, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what he does on DC, Old Glory DC. We've seen the emphasis that they have on their set piece play in the past, and that is why I do feel Connor Robinson, on top of the floor that he already provides, he goes into a situation that I think plays into his favor. But again, this is a guy that was averaging 5.7 fantasy points per game. He started 12 or had 12 appearances last season. And again, that ceiling, he's just a workhorse. And I think Connor Robinson now getting to move to what you would think is a better squad on top of already seeing what he's been able to do last season with Anthem Rugby Carolina, where he does kind of almost, to me, Maddie, has the play of Jake Turnbull, like you mentioned, with the upside of being a hooker,
Yep.
is the way I look at it, which is why I have him at number two. And I think should definitely a guy that I'm very confident drafting as my starting front row this season.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing is just with Kirby Myhill there. I think there's a conflicting kind of what's going to happen. And if we're being honest, Old Glory DC, like, look, they're the same team. A lot of other teams have gotten better. But yeah, I like that pick. Connor Robinson, great pick. For me, number one, Ryan. Um, a guy you put number five. That's crazy, but I am going Seth Smith as my number
Wow.
one. A little bit of a dark horse, I think, but look, he is the future, the mold or the future of what US rugby should be. I think Anthem are going to start him every game that he's healthy. Um, and he's just going to play for them, and he's going to continue what he was doing on Houston, and continue to have a great season. Yeah, I'm very high on Seth Smith, and I think he's going to have a great year.
Yeah. And again, I think that all plays into the emphasis. The one thing for me was the addition of Ramiro Gurovic, but again, Seth Smith is the future of US rugby, and that's what Anthem Rugby Carolina is all about. So again, and the potential is there, right? Great character. We've seen his play on the field. He's everything that you're looking for when it comes to building a foundational piece of a international program. And I would only imagine that they're going to try to emphasize that and help him develop and grow. Maddie, you talked with him at number two, but I have him at number one, and that is Theo Furry for me. I just think the combination of being on Chicago, which I think is many people's favorites to at least make a final this season, a guy that has, like you mentioned, Maddie, the pedigree when it comes to where he's played in the past. Yeah, I think Theo Furry is a guy that can easily be the number one fantasy player. And if you swap in the production of the Butcher, which I know is not hard, or which is hard to do and hard to say, but if there's anyone that can do it, it's a guy that has the resume of Theo Furry, who is now on the Chicago Hounds, and I think he's going to be fantastic for that team.
Yep, 100% agree.
All right, let's move on to the second row position, Maddie. Why don't you, or let me first start off by going over last year's top five. Last year's top five included Frank Lahore, Jason Dahm, Jed Holloway, Mason Flesh, and Sam Gala, two of which are still in the league, three of them not there. Obviously, Frank Lahore, Holloway, and Flesh all departing. Dahm and Gala both back in MLR for 2026. So, Maddie, with that being said, why don't you tell me your fifth ranked second rower?
I'm going a little crazy here, but I'm going to go with Ricky Rose. Ricky Rose,
Mm.
Mr. Ricky Rose, going from Miami Sharks to Old Glory DC. This is where I think he gets his shot. I mean, look, he's been coming off the bench. He hasn't been playing many games. So you look at the fantasy output of last year, 21.7 points total, not great. But you look when he starts, like 5.8 points. That's a good number to have. Like, that's something that you like to see with 72, 78 minutes played. I think he's going to get more opportunities with that in Old Glory DC. And the fact that he's a young American, I think, is going to play a factor here in how much playing time he gets. So, yeah, I see him having a good shot and being able to actually put up some consistent numbers.
Yeah, and he's a reason why he was picked first overall in 2023, right?
Yep.
And now he finds himself with Old Glory, and I think again the talent is there. We've kind of yet to see him unleash that and have maybe the opportunity to do that. You can go back to when he played with the Sharks in 24, like it was so promising. A season that had 12 games started, 117 tackles, right? And a guy that I think you first saw as a guy that was just going to up into the right skyrocket in terms of potential. 2025, a little bit of a down year from both a obviously production standpoint and fantasy standpoint, only 21.7 fantasy points. But yeah, sky's the limit, being on a new team and seeing what he can do in 2025. All right, for me at number five, Maddie, I have a brand new player, and you tell me if I'm saying this guy's name right. Is Harrison Mateo? Mateo?
Hey, you're trying your best, Ryan. That's all that matters.
He's a guy that obviously Tongan, huge, 6'8", plays on the Seawolves. He has 16 test caps for Tonga. I kind of like you, Maddie. I want to find at least and be open-minded to adding a guy that's brand new to the league to my top five. And out of
Yeah,
all the
second row is
guys,
kind of tough.
and I was gonna do. This was the guy that kind of fit that piece, and he's a guy that has been featured on the international stage, finds himself now with the Seattle Seawolves, and I think there's just a lot of opportunity for him to step up and be a difference maker on that team. You're mixing him in with Rhino Herbst and Callum Botcher, and I think there's just gonna be a lot of opportunity for him to be on the field, and with his international pedigree that he has and that resume that he has, I think that translates very well to MLR and in future fantasy MLR production, especially at the second row position, which can often be thin when it comes to getting points here.
Yep, 100% agree. I mean, he's an absolute mutant. And at number four, I mean, I'm actually going to go with his likely engine room partner, Rhino Herbst, Ryan.
Mm.
Um, I just think he's going to be a staple for the team. And look, he always is up there in terms of consistency. Like Rhino Herbst is the type of guy that we don't talk about very often, but when he does come up, it's always a conversation in terms of his consistency that he is just always on the field, always playing. 62.1 fantasy points last year, pretty much averaging around 5 point something fantasy points every game as a second rower. You'll take that. A few cards in there, yeah, hurts his fantasy totals. But look, I think Rhino Herbst here, like especially looking at that second row room, like you got three of them, and Rhino Herbst is the only one that's US eligible. Like that's a pretty good recipe for them being able to being able to essentially have him starting every game.
Yeah. No, I completely agree from that standpoint. And then I guess for me, I want to bring on Thomas Caceres at number four.
Mm.
Second row player, Argentinian, obviously played with the Sharks in 2025 and in 2024. For me, it's a guy that has just racks up tackles and is able to show that explosive ability in his play. 63.5 fantasy points last season. He's kind of one of those guys that's like a tweener where we've seen him at play in the back row and we love those guys that then kind of translate right into the second row position. There's not many guys that can rack up 20 tackles in a game at the second row position. And this is a guy that did that in round 15 last year, 19 in round 12. And then you add that with the round 15 to 20 meters gain per game per match and a guy that plays a whole lot of minutes. And that's exactly what I want for a second row position. I mean, you look at all of his matches that he played with Miami last season, and what I'm counting only three that he started in, did he not reach the full 80-minute total. Only one was under the 70-minute mark. So you're talking about those fantasy bonuses with the 70-minute bonus and the 80-minute bonus. Like this is a guy that's going to lock you in that half to 1 point plus the extra that he gets from the tackling production and whatever he can get from a meters gain standpoint. And he did not score a try last year. You punch in one or two more tries, right? Like if we regress the mean here and we see that maybe he can just find the try zone a couple times this upcoming season. He scored two in 2024. I think he's right back up there, and I think four is not a stretch of realm of possibilities for him to be in.
I mean, I guess we'll continue the trend because I'm going to pick his likely engine room partner, Nathan Den Hout, at number 3 in Chicago. I mean, you said it all pretty much about Chicago, but I want to talk a little bit about his consistency as a player, just always playing for Houston. I mean, just consistently in the starting lineup, consistently playing, even when he's coming off the bench, he's scoring and making an impact fantasy wise. But yeah, just averaging around 5 points a game from a second row position. You gotta love that. And 85.5 fantasy points on the season. You gotta love that as well. So yeah, hard for me to not choose Nathan Den Hout here. I'm a big fan of him.
And the same kind of notion there is that like you want players on good teams, right? That usually tends to lead to higher fantasy MLR production. And yeah, I'd be happy. Nathan Den Hout was like right on my cusp. It felt like last season was maybe a little bit of an outlier with how much he was able to find the try zone. And I think that comes down a little bit this year. But you could also argue, hey, he's on a Chicago Hounds team that really emphasizes that type of play. So maybe he's able to keep that consistent. But Thomas Caceres, Nathan Den Hout, both going to reap the rewards of being on a Chicago Hounds team that a lot of people think are going to be really good. All right, for me, Maddie, at number 3 is James Scott. I'm going with James Scott. He's a guy that now finds himself moving over from what's it called? From Chicago, right? And now finds himself on Rugby Anthem Carolina, or Anthem Rugby Carolina, I should say. Again, this is another guy that's just a tackle machine, right? He's a guy that last season, 80.8 fantasy points, racks up 183 tackles. And again, a second row player that is on the field a lot of the time. And we talked about Caceres racking up high tackle numbers. I mean, James Scott in round 14 of last season, 28 tackles with the Hounds. And you're not going to get a lot of that from a lot of second row players. So again, 80.8 fantasy points, a whole lot of minutes, majority of them all playing the full 80 except for 4 matches last season, and he started all 15 that we had in our fantasy MLR season. So again, I have a lot of confidence in James Scott, and I would definitely be searching to add him onto my roster if you have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean James Scott is a solid pick. Yeah, yeah, I love that one. Um, I guess we're not continuing the trend, Ryan, anymore. Well, actually, we are continuing the trend here, Ryan, because on Anthem RC for number 2, I am picking Sam Galla. This is a wild trend here. Yeah, I think last year was just a down year for him. Like Anthem really struggled, and even on a down year, Sam Gall is scoring 86.4 fantasy points, ending up as a second row 5, right? So, um, yeah, you end up with you look at that as a down year from him. I mean, I think this is gonna be his comeback year, and when you think about what his comeback year could be, I think I think you're talking about 100 plus points. You're talking about in the Jason Dobbs, the Frank Lahore categories that we saw in previous years. Um, yeah, I really think that he has that in him.
And we've seen it before, right? Like we've seen when he was on the Dallas Jackals again, like with the second row position, right? A position that we don't often find a lot of point production, right? Sam Gull is one of those tweener guys. Like we've seen him play back row before. He's obviously found his place in the second row position. He's going to play the second row with Anthem Rugby Carolina, and to see him kind of get to that state that we know that he can be, I think it's going to be saying the 2023 MLR Rookie of the Year. Again, Maddie, you mentioned down year last year with 86.4 fantasy points, but again, like Iron Man, right? Like you look down that
Yep.
list, there was 2 games where he did not play 80 minutes last season, right? And I think
Yep.
what only 3 or 4 where he didn't reach double digit tackles. Like Sam Gola has the ability to be a cheat code because you have a guy that has back row type production at the second row position. And again, if he is able to just get back a little bit to that standard, I think he's going to be a steal for people here at number 2.
Yep.
And that's the reason why. I mean, I don't need to add anymore. I have Sam Goll at number two as well.
Wow,
And
you have the partners right beside each other.
yep,
Okay.
right beside Sam Goll,
Okay.
James Scott,
Well,
right there.
number
All
one,
right.
I think we're probably going to be in alignment with this one. Jason Dom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's tough to look at his stats and look at his fantasy output last year, ending up as a front or second row two at 120.5 points all year. I mean, he basically had back row numbers. Like it just, he had back row numbers. The fact that he's back with California, the same coach, the same system, probably going to be the same impact type player, going to have the ball in his hands a lot at set piece. Like, yeah, it's hard to just not think that he's going to do it again. I mean, a second rower that's scoring 7 tries, like you're going to take that any day of the week.
Yeah. Could say better myself. Again, a guy that is on the field a lot, tackles a lot, has the ability to rack up a handful of meters a game. But I think what puts him, that separates him above all the rest. I think Jason Dahm, to me at least, man, you can tell me if you agree, is in another tier of his own because of that try scoring ability, right? Like he scored 7 tries last season. It fits in with the style that California is going to play with, like we saw in RFCLA, the fast paced, ball in hand, um, athletic type play. Sam Gola fits that, or not Sam Gola, Jason Dahm fits that mold. And if he even able to score half the tries that he scored last season, I think he's again easy shoe-in for number one overall. And I agree with you
Yeah.
there. So both you and I agreement on one and two, and I guess for the rest, just we we went opposite partners there for that one. But hey, maybe that just goes to show you the hope that we have on some of these teams moving forward here into MLR 2026. All right, on to the back row position. And Maddie, I think this one was one of the hardest to get through
Mm,
because the biggest question for me, and people are going to realize this as we go through the names, is that a lot of the guys that are returning happen to be on the same team. And I just don't know if that is sustainable in terms of that production. So let me go through who was on our top five last year. We had Jonah Moe, Brad Wilkin, Manuel Ardeo, Vian Conradi, and Christian Poitevin, all in our top five, respectively, at one, two, three, four, five. Four of them from one to four not returning to the MLR. The only one returning is Christian Poitevin. And the interesting thing when we go down that list and start talking about that framework is that when you look at that, the top back row scorers last season with the returning guys are Christian Poitevin, Ben Houston, and Ed Timpson. And for me trying to sort through that and be like, okay, am I going to put all three of these guys into my top five and have three
I
California
have
Legion
to.
guys? I don't know how you do that, but I guess we'll see. So we'll find out here if that's that what we banked on and decided on doing. But either way, Maddie, why don't you start off at number five here?
Number five, I'm going immediately with a flyer here. I'm going to go with Baden Godfrey, the newcomer
Mhm.
from Australia on Anthem RC. Yeah, I just think, look, like we've seen what the sevens guys, the Australian specifically sevens guys, have done when they've come into this league, right? You look at a guy like Brad Wilkin, Baden Godfrey, a guy who's with the sevens now. You know, I think he's going to have a big impact on this Anthem team, and I think it's probably a guy that they're looking like, hey, this guy could be a future U.S. Eagle if we hold him here long enough, make him happy enough, give him some playing time. I think kind of similar your look on Ramiro Gurovic, Ryan, is that like why would you bring in an international guy if you're not going to play him? So yeah, Bain Godfrey, I think he has an opportunity to really be the highlight of this back row room.
Yeah, and a guy again, you love to see kind of some of that resume stuff developed in the Brumby system. Has played over in the Shoot Shield, and again, Maddie, like you mentioned, Australian sevens. We do love to see that athleticism, and that does often translate to fantasy MLR production. All right, number five for me. I'm sticking with the familiar name, New England Free Jack, Joe Johnston, and the reason why I have him here is not for any crazy explosive performances that you're going to see from a fantasy, but the consistency cannot be argued. The baseline in which Joe Johnson is going to get you each and every single week is just so reassuring as a fantasy manager. And I get it. I know that to win championships, to win fantasy MLR championships, you got to reach for the stars and you got to get these guys that are going to obviously be high producers. But again, it's all about roster construction. And let's say you go with a riskier like riskier center play, right? That has that ceiling. And you just need some assurances that you're going to get points. Joe Johnson's going to be that guy for you. And he's a guy that racked up nearly 200 tackles last season, right? He is a mainstay of that New England Free Jacks lineup. Out of all the movement that they've had over the course of this past offseason with all the new names, right? He is the lone returning New England Free Jack in that back row room. And I think there's going to be a lot of reliance on him to assimilate and help kind of usher in these newer faces. And I think there's going to be a lot of emphasis on Joe Johnson being in that lineup. And if he's in the lineup, he's going to get you consistent numbers. And I think that's going to lead to him finishing as the fifth overall back row player.
I like it. I like Joe Johnson. I like that pick a lot. For me at number 4, Aiden King. This guy was the deservedly rookie of the year, I thought, last year. And now he moves on to a slightly better team, but in a better situation. I think here he's easily, in Old Glory DC, he's easily kind of top 3 back rower on this team. So yeah, I mean, look, he had a great season last year. A guy who came in, should have won Rookie of the Year again, like we said, but finds a way to put up 104 fantasy points in his rookie season, pretty much coming off the bench for some of them, for 5 of them, and starting all the other ones. So, and when he started, I mean, the guy's averaging pretty much 9, 10 points a game, and even off the bench, he's doing well. So yeah, I think there's a big season coming for Aiden King.
Yeah. And again, it's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be one of the talking points throughout this season is like these guys that obviously we've seen in the MLR, but how does that translate to these new helms that they find him? Obviously, we saw him what he did with the Nola Gold in his rookie season. How does that translate to Old Glory DC, right? The potential is there. Going to be interesting to see how Old Glory DC does utilize him. So I do like that number 4 pick. For me, Matt, at number 4, same team, different
Oh,
name, Corey Daniel. I mean, like, can I say anything more about Corey Daniel when it comes to what he's able to do? Like, he's almost like a even better version of Joe Johnston when it comes to the profile, right? Like, just a baseline that is so good when it comes to the tackling numbers, right? 222 tackles this season, right? And I can count on that happening. He's just a workhorse, right? He's going to be moving around the pitch. He's going to be making those hits. I can count on those numbers being there. But on top of that, right, this guy is a handful of games last season where he's above the 30 meters gain mark, which is another thing on that. You add on the potential for breakdown steals. I mean, through rounds 3 to 6, had a breakdown steal streak going of 4 straight matches. And then you add 3 tries on top of that. I mean, Corey Daniel at 129.8 fantasy points last season. Again, the heartbeat of Old Glory DC when it comes to that back row room and that team as a whole. I think Corey Daniel is going to be a fantastic pick. And I have him at number 4.
that's a solid pick. I like it. I love me some Corey Daniel. At number 3, I am going off the board again. New England Free Jacks, Josh, not Josh, that's his brother, Jacob
Hmm.
Norris. Back rower for them, international signing coming from New Zealand, has time playing for the Maori All Blacks, has time playing Moana Pacifica. Look, he comes with a lot of pedigree. You don't bring guys in like that. We've seen what these guys that they brought in do in this back row room for New England. And I think we can see this continue with Jacob Norris. So when we think about all the international guys that they've signed in that back row room, I think he's going to be the standout one.
Yeah, had him right on the outside cusp. I have him on my list here. Jacob Norris was right there, and I agree with you on that. With how that
Right there, but
uh
not on the list.
not on the list though, so doesn't count. All right, for me at number 3, I have Christian Poidevin. Christian
Mm.
Poidevin at number 3. I believe he is our top back row scorer coming into this season. With everything that he was able to do last year. Yeah, Christian Poidevin at 100 and 44.6 fantasy points, averaging 10.3 per match or so. Yeah, the highest scoring back row player last year that is returning. And again, he finds himself on a team that's going to have the similar playing style, or I should say, again, the merging of it that's going to play an advantage to his playing style. I think he's fast, athletic. Again, 100 over 140 points scored. He has that explosive ability. I think we've seen him in the past where I think people may be a little bit skeptical is I think a lot of people were high on him the season before, and it didn't pan out for people, but often that was because he wasn't even appearing in the lineup, period. But last
Mm.
season, we saw him showcased with the San Diego Legion. I expect him to be showcased here with California Legion, as especially as one of their very first signings that they announced. And again, he's a guy that has that ability to go up there in numbers. And I know it was hard for me to discern between Corey Daniel and Christian Poidevin, but Corey Daniel, or I should say Christian Poidevin, had 8 tries last season, and again, he has the ability to reach that point right back if they're going to be playing that fast style that Stephen Hoyles like to play that we saw with RFCLA. Him bringing that athleticism to that play type from San Diego last year. So Poidevin for me is at number 3.
Yep, like that one. Number two, I have Mac Jones from the Chicago Hounds. Um, I don't know what else to say. I mean, the guy just starts every game. The guy finds a way to score tries every other game. The guy finds a way to rack up double-digit tackles every game. It's hard not to look at this guy and think about, oh, he's a guy that I want to draft highly for back row. 142.3 fantasy points last year, pretty much averaging around 12 points, 11 points a game. And you like to see that, and he's playing every single game. So I don't expect anything less from him this year, on a team that honestly probably is better in comparison and relatively to some of these other teams. So yeah, I don't expect anything less. I'm expecting a huge season out of him.
Yeah, double digit tackles between round 3 and 15. Only 2 matches out of the 14 that he appeared in last season did he not get double digit tackles, and even then it was 7 and 9. So he was right up there. And again, just consistency, 2 double try point scoring games, and again on a Chicago Hounds team that is again very high favorites to be very successful this season, which is why I have him at number 2 as well. So both of us in agreement
Nice.
there. Maddie, then reveal your number 1 pick.
Number one, you had him at three. I'm putting him at one. Christian Poidevin. I just think that he has a great opportunity here. Like, I think he's going to be the leader of this back row room. And like, we've seen him in open space and the stuff that he can do in open space. I just think he's going to be one, consistent lineup, and two, be able to make a lot of use of that open space that he's going to get in between the 15th.
Yeah, that is the one caveat that I had with the guy I'm going to reveal here is that just based on the way that they announced it, just the and knowing the numbers that they have in that back row room and the names that they have in that back row room in California when it comes to Ronan Murphy, Lance Williams, right, Ed Timpson, and then you mentioned Christian Poidevin and the guy that I'm going to mention here, which I might have just spoiled. But either way, yeah, it feels like Poitevin may be the guy that's the mainstay there as everyone else rotates. But either way, I'm going to go with Ben Houston here. And Ben Houston's going to be my number 1. He was the highest point per game average score out of all returning back row players, right? 10.8 fantasy points per match. Appeared in 13 last season with a total of 140.4 last season. I think that again, we saw what he was able to do with RFCLA. It slots right back in. The familiarity with Stephen Hoyles there. I think Ben Houston can capitalize. Again, could you flip flop Houston and Poitevin here with me at 1 and 3? Yes. Again, I think it's a lot of that RFCLA picture that we're talking about, but I saw it with Houston in RFCLA with the same coach. I expect to see it again this season. And when Houston was on the pitch, it just felt like he always had the opportunity to rack off a big play, and he was a lot of fun to watch this season. And I think he's going to be a pretty good lock, if not number 1, definitely in that top 5. Again, three matches, four matches were, well, five matches, six matches where he was above the 50 meters gain number, and you just don't see that often with other players around the league at this position. So Houston, athletic, tackles, meters gain, scores tries. I think he'll be pretty solid here for this upcoming season.
Yep, I agree there.
So, all right. So to wrap it up, Baden Godfrey, Aiden King, Jacob Norris, Mac Jones, Christian Poitevin is your 5-1. Maddie, for me, it's Joe Johnston, Corey Daniel, Christian Poitevin, Mac Jones, and then Ben Houston for my fifth to first back row players. All right. Let's get into now the halfback position, Maddie. And this is the one
Oh
that has the
boy.
biggest storyline because there's the biggest change when it comes to fantasy MLR this season, moving down from 8 to 6 teams in a lot of our leagues. We've had to make the decision to combine the scrum half, fly half room into a singular halfback position this season, just with the lack of availability of players to go around in a 6 team league. And along with that, having to take out the kicking points here because not everyone is going to have the opportunity to snag a kicker here when it comes to fantasy MLR. So, with that being said, Maddie, why don't you give me away your, or I should say overall, what was your thinking about this position moving forward? Like, where did you
Uh,
weigh the removal of the kicking points and then now the balance between fly half and scrum half?
well, you just look at them as players. Like fly halves lose value and halfbacks remain the same. So yeah, I think you just look at them as in terms of players and what type of style of play that they play and you go from there.
All right. Well, why don't you rack off your fifth position then?
You're not going to announce the five from
Oh,
last year?
yes. Let me go through that. Last season, again, with the different names. Number one was Joel Hodgson, mainstay of this league, as all. Rodney Iona, number two. Gonzalo Bertranu at number three. Davey Kotzer at four. And then Christian Leo Lefano at number five. So, again, three of those guys returning in Hodgson, Bertranu, and Kotzer. Rodney Iona and Leo Lefano not in the league this year. So, with that being said, Maddie, give us your fifth number.
So at number five, I've got Hilsenbeck. Yeah, I just think he's going to be consistent for Chicago this year. Like at 10, he's just going to be consistent 10. He's going to be on the field. He's going to be playing. He's going to be, you know, he's not a guy who's going to get you crazy meters gained. He's not a guy that's going to get you crazy tackles or tries. He's just going to be there and be on the field. And I think with that being said, he's going to have opportunities to score, going to have the opportunity to score points. So for me, Hilsenbeck, I think is a great addition there.
Yeah, 85.6 fantasy points last season. He does lose, I think, his biggest power in that kicking when it comes to fantasy MLR. But again,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt to be the de facto starting number 10 on what is considered the best team in all of MLR. So, no, I like that pick at number five. For me at number five, I'm going with brand new signing, Kobe Milne, a guy that's
Mm.
joined the California Legion, a guy that has pedigree in terms of where he's played. Obviously, was in the Western Force Super Rugby side as an injury cover. Made his debut against the Crusaders, so a guy that has appeared on the top flight of all rugby club competition. He, in my opinion, is the de facto starting 10 in California Legion. I don't really see any risk for him to not be starting a whole bunch of games this upcoming year with Stefan Krimp and Matt Antichev there as his kind of backups there. But I do think Kobe Milne is going to be a guy that's going to be really good. And again, maybe I waited a little bit more, but I think the loss of the kicking, I was really looking for athletic, explosive players that can make plays. And I think Kobe Milne has the opportunity to do that, having played at such a high level and now going to the MLR and having the chance to showcase that against maybe talent that is maybe a little less superior than what he's faced in the past.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. At number four, I've got Gonzalo Bertranu, the lone and only nine that's going to be on my list. But yeah, he deserves it. I mean, the guy put up 123.5 fantasy points. Didn't need the kicking points. All he needed is the playing time and the space to run. So love to see that. I mean, the guy pretty much averaged low end center numbers as a nine. So really impressive to see. Um, And yeah, I think he's going to continue to be a staple of the offense, continue to play quickly, continue to play attacking and front foot rugby from the nine position, which is going to help him when it comes to fantasy points.
Yeah. Interesting that he's the only nine on your list. But we'll get into that a little bit. I do think that for me, at least, the discrepancy between fly half and halfback is definitely shortened with the loss of kicking points here. But with that being said, still got to put this guy on my list at number four. So that's Joel Hodgson, right? Joel Hodgson, gonna be a guy that's on your defending champs. He's been a mainstay of the MLR. We've seen what he's been able to do in this league. He does have you know, ability to make plays that's outside of his kicking ability. I mean, look at the rounds 13 performance where he had 104 meters gained a try. On top of that, in only 61 minutes played. Even when you take this guy's kicking ability out of it, I think he does have a lot of opportunity to just make plays on his own. Obviously, he was on a Utah Warriors team that was pretty offensively high powered, but New England, the stability there, he's going to slot right in. He's going to do his Joel Hodgson thing, and I think he's going to have great points there.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I put him at number three. So echoing a lot of the sentiment that she said, I think his big asset is going to be try assist, and the occasional meters gained that you're going to get from him when he starts playing some front foot rugby, which I think he's going to have the opportunity to do so in New England. So yeah, he just has to be in the top three for me.
All right, number three for me, one of your favorite guys in the league, Maddie, and that is Zion going at
Mm.
number three. Goes from the Utah Warriors, now finds himself on Anthem Rugby Carolina. A big reason on why I made this pick was because, I mean, he's the guy, right? We saw Carl Keane, we saw Ismail Safodian last season. Just didn't cut it, right? I think Zion going is going to be part of the regime that is going to get Anthem Rugby Carolina not only their first win in franchise history, but also get them on the right foot in terms of being competitive in the MLR. And he was one of the biggest surprises, I think was voted as one of our sleepers of the year.
Mhm.
And a guy that just, again, when I want in my nine, especially this season, is guys that are looking to attack, guys that are looking to be involved, and Zion going to me and you mentioned it before, Maddie, and Gonzalo Bertrand is almost like a poor man's Gonzalo Bertrand, who's very impressive. He impressed me a lot last season. I think when you combine that with his stability at the starting position, again, you look at all the nines rooms across the league, there's not many of them that are like, I believe that this guy is going to be the starter. It's not going to be like a half in, half out. Like the complete opposite of that would be like the Seattle Wolves room where you have Andre Warner and JP Smith, which is probably part reason why we don't have them. And or I can assume, Maddie, on your list, don't have them on our top five. But Zion going, I'm pretty confident here. And hey, you can even throw in there. He had a back three appearance there in round 12 last season, starting at 15. So maybe we sneak in a couple more this year, maybe on Anthem.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you'd like that, wouldn't you? Yeah, solid player. I think he's a solid choice, and he's going to benefit from the rule change here that we have. At number two, I have a guy that you put at number five, Kobe Milne. To me, he's just perfect for fantasy rugby. The way that he plays, the way that he attacks the line, the way that he is running support lines, it's perfect for fantasy rugby, in my opinion. He's really pacey. He's going to be really good in the LA system, or the California Legion system. So yeah, I see him finishing up at number two, especially with the fact that kicking's not involved.
Yeah. Number two for me, you mentioned him earlier, Matt Gonzalo Bertrano. For me, again, just a guy that when you watch him play, looking to attack every time he has the ball. And like when you have the position that touches the ball the most, and he's going to be approaching that with that type of mentality, especially with California Legion style of play when they're going to be fast paced, they're going to be attacking. I think Gonzalo Bertrano is going to be able to capitalize that once again. And you look at Maddie, you mentioned him, his numbers were up there with like the lower tier center numbers. He was competing up there with, some of the fly halves numbers up there at the nine position when kicking was involved. You take out kicking. I think he's right up there with being some of the best halfbacks in the league, and that's why I have Bertrando at number two. Maddie, I can only assume with the one guy remaining that we are in agreement at what number one is.
Yep, I think we're both agreeing with Davey Kutzer. I mean, enough said. Like, he's going to get time at 15, probably. He's going to play a lot of time at 10. Yes, he's not going to have the kicking points, but boy, does he have the ability to attack. So, yeah, Can't say much more. It's kind of hard not to put him number one.
Yeah. One of the I think most fun players to watch in the league, without a doubt.
Yep.
And you talk about a season where he didn't appear, like he played only 9 matches last season, started 8 of them, and still put up 118.3 fantasy points. Like, just a guy that has crazy ability. And out of all the players, Matt, he may be the guy that's going number one, possibly in a lot of leagues here in
Which
this
means
upcoming
he's
thing.
probably not going to be in that top five.
Knock on wood. We'll see. All right. So for Maddie, he's got Davey Kutzer, Kobe Milne, Joel Hodgson, Gonzalo Bertranu, Christopher Hilsenbeck as his top five. For me, I got Kutzer, Bertranu, Zion Going, Hodgson, and then Kobe Milne there in my five spot as well. So different rules, going to be a different landscape. Going to be interesting to see how that plays in the fantasy MLR mix. All right. Let's go on to now our second last position, Maddie, the center position. This one was interesting. Maybe not the hardest to pick, but just love seeing some of the names here. And just, I think this out of all positions, I think we've agreed in the 5 years that we've played this is like the heartbeat of fantasy point scoring in terms of
Mhm.
just the meters gained, the point production that we see from them. This is often where you're going to be building your team around. And it's fun to see what some of these names are be. Last year's top five at the center position, Devon Rousseau at number one, Billy Meeks at number two. D'Angelo Le'uila at number three, Dom Akina at four, and Bryce Campbell at five. Three of those, again, in Le'uila, Akina, and Campbell, not in the league anymore, but Rousseau and Meeks returning. Now, Rousseau is moving to the back three position, so he's not eligible for the center position this year. But Billy Meeks is there, and we'll see where he ends up on our list. But Maddie, why don't you start us off at number five?
Number five, I'm going to start with Mark Bennett, the new man, the new Scottish man in Seattle. Um, Look, I think the question's in the air of where he's going to play and what he's going, where he's going to fit in this roster. We have Dan Creel there. I think Dan Creel is probably going to take some more games off. You have Devon Rousseau there. Does he end up playing 13? What happens there? I think one key thing is that you bring in Mark Bennett, you play Mark Bennett. Mark Bennett's going to get playing time, and I see him finishing off as the fifth center.
Okay. And then moving on for me at number five, I got Nick Chan on the California Legion. He's a guy that obviously has kind of found his groove here. We saw what he was able to do last year on San Diego, moves on over to now the California Legion. And he's a guy that I think is going to have a lot of production here. And we look at, in the 11 matches that he played, 109.7 fantasy points, averaging around 10 points per match. I think he has the opportunity to be paired up with Billy Meeks to take advantage of that. I really do like this back line of California, and I think Nick Chan's going to be a big piece of that.
Yep, I 100% agree. I think, yeah, I think he's going to do well there.
All right, number four, Maddie.
Number four, I've got Eric Storty, a name that we haven't talked about for a while. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because he was injured for a lot of last year, and I would like the people to not forget what he was doing for this team. And Eric Storty, I mean, when he was on the field, when he was playing, I mean, he ended up putting up 73.8 fantasy points, right? Like the way that he plays, like before he ended up, did he get hurt this year or was it last year?
I think it was. I think there was a brief time where he was out this past season, but I do think that it might have been. Let me double check on you.
Anyways, to me, I think like the start of the year when Anthem were doing well, look at what he was doing. He's producing 11 points, 15 points, 7.2 fantasy points in his first ever MLR game. Like for me, that's kind of like what you want to see out of a center. And you love that. And the fact that he was able to do that and then continue to kind of s- have lower production, but explainable by how bad Anthem was in the latter half of the season. I think Anthem's going to be better. I think Eric Story is going to benefit from that, and he's going to play well this year, and he's going to find his way into the top five.
Yeah, first overall pick in 2024 did deal with some injury last season. So again, the potential for him to take that next step, definitely heading into 2025, is a big one here. All right, number four for me, I have Ollie Devoto, and I can encapsulate this basically in one small thing. I want good players on good teams, and Ollie Devoto is a solid player on, again, a team that I think many people have on the top of their list. Just so consistent for you. double-digit meters gained in every game he appeared in last season. Add double-digit tackles to at least half of those as well. Just a very good baseline. Again, I don't think expectations are big here, right? And I don't think you go into this as Eric Storty being the guy that's going to go off and pop off for 25 fantasy points for you. But is he going to get you 8 to 11 fantasy points every single match? Yeah, he's going to do that for you. And now you add on the fact that the Chicago Hounds backline is one that's much improved from years before. I think Devoto is going to be a guy that is going to be a very big benefactor of that.
Yeah, I 100% agree, which is why exactly why I have him at my number three position, Ollie Devoto. Yeah, echoing everything you say, I think he's just going to be a staple of the Chicago team,
All right.
and he's going to have a lot of opportunity.
Number three for me, then, Maddie, and where you had Ollie Devoto, I have Jordan Jackson Hope. Uh, he's a guy, Maddie, you're familiar with, helped you win a fantasy MLR championship, I think back when, and obviously taken last year, not appearing in the MLR last year. We've seen what he's been able to do with NOLA. He now finds himself on a team that can do a whole lot of dynamic things, I think, from that standpoint, in terms of what he will be able to do with Anthem Rugby Carolina. And I think Jordan Jackson Hope is going to be, or sure, not Anthem Rugby Carolina, Old Glory DC. I think he's going to be that long yearning center that DC has been waiting for a long, long time. And I think Jordan Jackson Hope has the pedigree to do that. Obviously, 25 season off, but again, almost nearly 900 meters gained in 23 and in 24, and then triple digit tackles in both of these seasons as well. Jackson Hope, I think, is a lock to be a top five finisher here. And I have him at number three.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jordan Jackson Hope, so that's why I probably have him higher up. But at number two, for now, the people are gonna have to wait because I've got Wayne Vanderbank, a guy who has retaken the center position in New England. And we remember what happened when Leroux Milan was not playing or was out with injured and Wayne Vanderbank was starting. We remember what happened. The guy was an absolute mutant, and he's going to be this again. I think he becomes a starting 13 day in, day out for this team. Um, Being the only US eligible center pretty much there, now that he is US eligible. He's going to be playing a lot of rugby, and they're going to want to see him playing a lot of rugby. And I think he's going to do it really well. So that's why I've got him at number two.
All right. Well, number two for me, I got Mark Bennett. You talked about him earlier. I think I'm super excited to see what this guy's able to do on the Seattle Seawolves. Obviously, again, has that international pedigree, comes in, big international signing for the Seattle Seawolves, if not one of the biggest international signings of the season, in my opinion. I think, again, taking some of that workload off Dan Creel. Dan Creel had a little bit of a down fantasy year last year, and I think Mark Bennett's going to be in there. To supplement that. And I think very highly of Bennett here this upcoming year. All right, Maddie, finishes off here with the centers at number one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo your sentiment, but Jordan Jackson Hope, yeah, I have a hard time seeing him not being the focus of the offense that he's in. You know what I mean? Like, I just think the opportunity that he's going to have on Old Glory DC is essentially be the person that they run the offense through. And I think the mix of him and Damian Hoyland are going to be a really good combo, and they're going to do really well.
Very, very interesting. Leaving off a very notable name on that list that I have at number one, and that is Billy Meeks. Billy Meeks finishing off as my number one overall. The highest scoring center that is returning was last
Yeah, he's
year's
running a
number
coffee shop.
two fantasy scorer. I think, again, that high paced California Legion offense is going to bode well for him. He rejoined Stephen Hoyles. I think Billy Meeks is going to have a fantastic season. And again, a guy that I think will be going in first rounds of people's drafts this upcoming year. Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about Meeks in terms of what he's been able to do. Obviously, he's been a mainstay of the MLR for quite some time, and now coming off a year where he put up 166.4 fantasy points, played a whole bunch of the year, scored tries, makes tackles, is involved, went a streak of 6 straight matches last season of scoring a try. With that fast-paced offense, I think Billy Meeks has the potential here to easily be the number one overall center.
Yep. I mean, I don't agree with you, but hey, miracles can happen.
Well, what's okay? So why was he off your top five?
there's a lot of good centers in this league.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
yeah.
good centers that are going to play a lot of good rugby. Billy Meeks is consistent. He's like a Dan Creel. And I think what we're going to see out of Billy Meeks is we're going to see a little bit less involvement, a little bit less of him potentially playing. Um, I mean, there's a reason why they have a guy like Nick Chan in there. So
Yeah, I will say the argument you make with Wayne Vanderbank, who's not on my list, and you have him at number two, definitely makes me a little bit scared there because I feel like you're spot on with that. But again, your top five: Jordan Jackson Hope, Wayne Vanderbank, Ollie Devoto, Eric Storty, Mark Bennett. I am Billy Meeks, Mark Bennett, Jordan Jackson Hope, Ollie Devoto, and Nick Chan. All right, let's round out our top five predictions here, Maddie, with what I think was one of the hardest, if not the hardest, top five to decide on because we know the volatility when it comes to this position. And I have so many names on this list. I can only put five on this list, and it's hard to leave some guys out. And I think there's one name here that you're going to laugh at me for leaving out of here who was a great scorer last season, but it's hard for me to argue to put him on there. But we'll get right to that. But either way, last year's top five: Joe Mono, Duncan Matthews, Paula Bellicana, Ryan James, and then Jordan Trainer. Four of which are returning. The lone one not returning is Paula Bellicana. So you can argue this is the position that has the most returning. So maybe it was supposed to be easier for us to slot in our top five. But again, the back three
nope.
volatility, it's hard to predict here. We've put Joe Mono at the top of our list before, and we've seen what that has happened. So we'll see what we do here. So Maddie, with that being said, who do you have at number five?
Number five off the board, Max Lehman, the newcomer coming in from Australia, the former league player coming in to play for the New England Free Jacks. Look, he's a really strong and punchy winger. And I think that's exactly what New England kind of likes to play with. Like you look at guys like Balakena, they have a lot of pace, they have a lot of strength. And I think Max Lehman kind of fits that build as well. So you think about the guys that Joel Hodgson as well as help set up, right? You think about the guys like Joe Mano, right? Like these strong, speedy wingers. Max Lehman, I think, brings that similar skill set, and I think he's gonna have a good season.
Very interesting. All right. For me, I have at the back three position at number five is Joe Mano. And this might be a little bit,
Interesting.
maybe a little bit, um, what's the word? People maybe not like that. I do think that counting on a guy to score as many tries as he did last season to return back to that number one fantasy MLR form is going to be tough to rely on. That's not me saying that he's not going to do that. For him to reach 187.2 fantasy points with 14 tries last season is pretty crazy. But either way, I still think he's going to score. Do I think he's going to score 14 tries this year? No, but I do think he's going to be among the best. And I had to still slot him in my top five. Was scared to put him any higher than that because of that volatility. But either way, I think Joe Mano, you can't go wrong. And again, it's that ceiling play, right? Like this is a picture where he can easily be the number one fantasy player again and be the first time that we've had a repeating number one fantasy MLR player in back-to-back seasons. But I'll wait to see that happen before I count on it. And either way, Joe Mano will be a great player for you. And again, it's a ceiling play here, right? Like we've been on that ebb and flow, right, Maddie? Like we've had the season where we've seen Joe Mano do this. We've picked him number one overall and then had the down year in 2024, where he only scored 96.3 fantasy points and only had three
Oh, where
tries
he
in the season.
he got hurt halfway through the season.
That's true. Well,
That's
no,
not
he in
as
this season he led into it with an injury.
uh I don't think he would have got picked first then. I think you're getting the timing mixed up. I think the year that he got picked first, he got hurt.
What was that in 2023?
I
No,
don't
because
remember. Anyways, number four for me, Ryan. Great weird stuff with having him at number five, but good for you. Number four, Rory Van Voot. I think
hmm
for me, he's going to be the meter eater of the year. Maybe the second meter eater of the year. But yeah, he's going to be 15 for California Legion. And he's going to have a lot of opportunities to run with the ball in hand. And I think that's going to translate really well for fantasy numbers. You look at the opportunities that he had last year, you look at him as like the back 3-6 with 156.9 fantasy points. He can play on the wing. He can play at 15. When he plays at 15, I mean, he's putting up numbers. Like he's putting up 15 points, 18 points, 12 points. First 4 games of the season, basically putting up over 12 points every time. Love to see that. That's why I think he's going to be number 4.
Yeah, and for that same reason, I have him at number 4. I think it's going to be exciting to see him on the California Legion. Going to see exciting what he did. And again, you look at that back three room, like there's not many options there, right? Like you got Joe Mono, Rory Van Voot, Oscar Tracy and Ryan James, right? Like those are your options. And again, if we're going to see Rory Van Voot play at the 15 position for 15 or I guess what 11 matches that they have this year or 10 matches that they have this year, 9 of them, I think it's going to be interesting to see that. So Rory Van Voot, yeah, meter eater, I think is the exact word that I would use for that standpoint as well.
Yeah, and at number 3, I don't know if we're matching it for this one, but I've got Devon Rousseau. I think this was a tough one. I think for me, it was between Duncan Matthews and Devon Rousseau. You couldn't pick both of them.
Yeah.
And for me, I just think Devon Rousseau is a guy that they can't leave out of the lineup. Um, and they're just he's just he fits in too many spots. Duncan Matthews can play at 15. Like that's what Duncan Matthews plays. Devon Rousseau can fit in so many spots. He's going to have more opportunity, I think, and he's just going to continue what he does. And what he does is absolutely put up ridiculous fantasy numbers. Um, yeah, like it's nothing.
Yeah, we could very well see Devon Rousseau having the back three center eligibility 3 weeks into the season, especially with how shallow the Seattle Seawolves center room is between Mark Bennett and Dan Creel and Calvin Leo Lamaga. So yeah, easy for Devon Rousseau to do that. But I think it's the same sentiment as you, Maddie. I couldn't find a way to put both Rousseau and Matthews into my top five, just knowing that. But if there was a guy I was going to pick, it was going to be Rousseau because of the ability. And it's hard because Duncan Matthews finished as the second best back three scorer last season,
Yep.
right? And we've seen what he's able to do. Will we eat our words here in a year's time? Maybe, but again, as of right now, if
Can't pick both.
you put a gun to my head, I'm picking Rousseau over Matthews each and every single time, right? Like the easiest way to do it for me was if you're on the clock and you're drafting, you have both these names on there, who are you picking? And 10 out of 10 times, I'm picking Rousseau over Matthews. Are we underplaying Matthews and are we sleeping on him? Probably, but I think the upside of Rousseau is too much to slide away. So I have him at number 3 as well, Maddie.
Cool.
But for you,
Number
Maddie,
two,
what do you have at number 2?
number two, I've got Jordan Trainer. Um, Yeah, I mean, when I said that Rory Van Voot's going to be the second best meter eater, it's because Jordan Trainer is going to be the number one meter eater. Um, for me, I think he just has far too much opportunity. When you look at kind of like what he can do in this anthem offense, right? Like he's going to be the 15. And this team is going to be better. This team is going to put up points. And we've seen what happens with this back line and what this happens with this back three when they put up points. Like they perform, they do well. You look at guys like Junior Goff, you look like David Still, right? Like Julian Roberts has done well. Junior Eric Storty has done well. So yeah, I think they have an opportunity here. I think Jordan Trainer is going to benefit a lot from that, and he's going to be a top two back three.
Yeah. And again, we saw what he did with Utah last season, and just a fun player to have on your roster. Explosive, 157.8 fantasy points. I mean, there's not many guys that can rack off the numbers that he did, and he did exactly that. And he's going to be able to do that on Anthem Rugby Carolina side, where he is going to be one of the again pivotal pieces in that reemergence, or I said. Kind of helping this Anthem team get to where they want to be. All right, number 2 for me, and I figure that this is kind of going off the board, I guess, then from what you had at the top 5, but I got Santiago Videla. And again,
Mm.
good players, good teams. And maybe I'm being a homer too much with the Chicago Hounds, but I think out of all
Homer.
the players that they have on their back three list, I think this is the guy that's going to be at that 15 position. I think that's where I kind of leaned with this top 5 is more consistency, not really relying on as much as that volatility from the back three play, which is part why I have guys like Ryan James off my list, but I had to put Joe Mono because he was our number 1 last year, but all the other guys are fullbacks. Santiago Vidal is going to slot in the Chicago Hounds fullback. With a great team, going to have opportunity to get those meters. And again, didn't really live up to expectations last season on the Miami Sharks, having, been kind of in and out of the lineup, appeared for 10 matches. expected a lot more and we left us wanting, but you look at the year before where he put 154.4 fantasy points in the 12 matches that he played. That's what we're looking for. And I think he can return to that form here with the Chicago Hounds without as good as they're expecting to be this upcoming year.
Nice call. Nice call. And then finally, number one, who you put at crazily number 5, Joe Mono, I've got at number 1. Yeah, he's the outright starting winger for this extremely high-paced offense. Can be extremely similar to what they're doing in Utah and what opportunities he had in Utah, potentially even better. So yeah, to me, it's just a no-brainer. I think he actually does better than last year.
Incredible. Man, that'd be crazy to see that. And for me, you mentioned him at number 2, Jordan Trainer. I have him at number 2. I think he's going to be
We're at number 1.
Or number 1. I said you had him at number 2. I have him at number 9. Jordan
Yep.
Trainer there to round out my list. So Maddie, you got Joe Mono, Jordan Trainer, Devon Rousseau, Rory Van Voot, Max Lehman as your top 5, and then for my top 5, Jordan Trainer, Santiago Videla, Devon Rousseau, Rory Van Voot, and Joe Mono. So hey, it's all out there now, Maddie. The top 5 predictions are locked in and sealed, and I guess we'll reflect on it from a year's time from now. But I mean, hey, it's going to be exciting to see all this come to fruition, and we only got to wait less than 14 days away
Yep.
to see this all play out with that opening game between Anthem Rugby Carolina and the California Legion. So couldn't be more excited, and it's not going to be long until we figure out and get a clear picture on how right or how wrong we are with these top 5.
Usually that. Yep.
All right.
Usually that.
A last question to leave it off here, Maddie. If you right now you're on the clock with the 1.1, who are you taking?
Whoever I hate the most.
No, I'm being dead serious. I know you're saying that, but you have the 1-1.
I don't know. I mean, Joe Mono probably.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say Joe because I have him at number 5 on my top 5 rankings, so I'll probably go Jordan Trainer right now as my number 1 overall pick there. So we'll see. Maybe that lends itself to Joe Mono to prove me wrong there at having him at number 5. So either way, again, fun to go through those top 5s, fun to talk about these players. And again, in less than 2 weeks, we're going to find out and see how this all unfolds or begins to unfold here as we start to march on through MLR 2026. So again, you want to participate. If you want to let us know who your top 5 is, comment down below. Let us know. Join the Discord community. Join that chat. And again, if you want to play Fantasy MLR this season, hit that link down below, sign up, and we'll get you all started after you fill out that Google form. Maddie, anything else you have to say to the people as we round out the 183 episode of the Fantasy Ruckers and our penultimate episode before the start of MLR 2026?
No, just we're in Jersey countdown season, so get ready, people.
Get ready, people. All right. Well, next week, we will be back previewing our very first MLR week and probably talking a little bit of fantasy MLR draft as those will be going on heading into what we're considering as week 0 or week 1 for MLR 2026. Devin will be back next episode, so he'll be looking forward to chatting with you all again. For Matt Yee, for Devin Vandy Vanderpool, I am Ryan Yee, and we'll see you next week, another episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show.
Love you, Vandy.
You've been listening to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, covering everything rugby from the MLR and beyond. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell all your friends. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, connect with us on social media at the Fantasy Ruckers. Till next time, this is the Fantasy Ruckers Show, signing off.